Hello and welcome to the Metal Cell podcast. I'm broadcasting live from Monolith 2019, and I'm absolutely delighted to say I have Nathan and Flo from Damim.
Hello.
Here. How are you, lads?
Hi.
Pretty good.
We're good, thank
pretty
you.
good.
You're looking good anyway. You look fresh, which is very important.
That's very glad to hear. It's
Absolutely.
certainly
You didn't
appearances can
Subject
be
to change as
deceiving.
the night goes on, I think.
You didn't
That's
resort to temptation last night.
Oh no, that was just not. No.
For the listeners that don't know, they were down in a place called Inch, which I know well. It's not too far away from my house in the middle of the countryside. And you were, what would you call your habitat?
Yurts.
Yurts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there electricity in them?
Yes, there was.
Yeah.
Ah.
They were well furnished. They were insulated, comfortable.
Yeah.
Didn't really feel like temporary accommodation. Put it that way.
Yeah, sometimes you feel just in a kind of, literally a single step above a tent.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it
yeah.
wasn't like that. So you
Yeah.
could stand in it. There was light. There were comfy things everywhere. It's great.
I tell you, I mean, fair play to Con. He does it differently anyway.
Yes.
You know, he had a good experience anyway, you know. So I want to talk to you first about the new album. How's it been received?
So far, so good. Reviews have been good.
Yeah.
Reception in terms of the live delivery has been excellent. We've also been playing the songs live for quite a while. So I think part of the secret, shall we say, to putting an album to a permanent medium in a confident way is to be intimately familiar with the material. One of the things we really wanted to do was to avoid over-editing, right? That's a very easy trap to fall into these days, especially with all the technology.
You keep coming back and
Yes.
you keep coming back and you keep coming back.
We
and
did kind of keep coming back, but I think it was for the right reasons.
Yeah, it wasn't like, it's not super, like picked apart.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
Was there a reason why you went with Neil?
He was available, he was willing to work with us, and more importantly, he'd worked on a lot of stuff that we grew up listening to and that everybody is familiar with. And when I say everybody, I mean his repertoire, his discography is
Niall, Cannibal
very
Corpse, Judas
broad.
Priest.
Well,
yeah,
well,
there's quite a lot there as well.
I while we were actually working on it, I found out that he'd actually mixed Unleashed in the East, which is touted as the best live heavy metal album in existence.
That's interesting.
So
Wow.
so that was a thing, but you know, he also worked on Hall & Oates, Elton John. He worked with David Bowie.
I actually saw Hall & Notes there.
Well, there you go.
I'm open myself, but I cannot fault them. They were brilliant live on a heavy metal podcast. But anyway,
So
that's
so
your
yeah.
fault, Nate. You brought it up.
Yeah,
You brought it up.
That's, I'll own that happily. But yeah, obviously the fact that, you know, he'd worked on quite a few Cannibal Corpse albums, Nile, Nevermore, Akakoka, obviously that's where the initial connection was established.
Okay. I was wondering, yeah.
But yeah, it's a sort of, I don't like using the term, but a kind of bucket list. Again, achievement, I'm not sure that's the right word, but thing to have done, to have worked with somebody
Yes.
who's so prestigious and really brought a new kind of dimension to our sound. You know, he took the track that we provided him with and shaped them with his own way of working, which is, I think, fairly unique to each project that he approaches. So every time he does something, he'll work with the band rather than reinvent them through his black box process.
Yeah. How did that feel for you? Because I'd imagine you kind of like to have a certain amount of control as well and input.
Well,
Did you have to kind of stand back and trust them, or?
well, the reason why we hired him was for his expertise. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't want to go in and say, this is not how you mix drums. What are you doing? So
There was a lot of back and forth, though.
Yes.
He wasn't
Yeah.
just kind of like, this is how it is.
Yeah,
You know, he wasn't
okay.
like,
the process was remote as well. So he did it while living in America, and he sent us files and.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
yeah.
Right.
So it wasn't, and
Yes.
it took quite a long time. It wasn't a 1 week, 2 week kind of mixing job. That's another aspect of the new musical paradigm in which we exist, in my opinion, which is that you don't work in the same bursts of activity. It's by necessity of, you know, by virtue of the fact that we kind of have lives, and we don't and can't and don't want to spend all our time doing this either. We also have the luxury of a certain amount of time that we can really work on things and refine them, and it was very collaborative, as well as him providing all sorts of anecdotes which I wouldn't necessarily be at liberty to repeat here, but the technical insights and aspects, and, you know, how he mixes things, how he doesn't use certain frequencies on certain instruments, and hearing the tracks raw from his mix, say that just the drum mix, to hear how much reverb he adds to it, for example. That was quite a surprise, but it sounds great. Well, we think so anyway.
Yeah, and as a drummer, Flo,
I was thrilled. Yeah, we got a.
Did you work on the drums first, by the way?
Say again?
Did you work on the drums first?
Did we record the drums first? You mean? Yeah, there's a couple of songs that's kind of turned up a little bit later that we did after work on everything else had started, probably. But yeah, the initial thing was it was a long weekend of having at it, basically, and that's where most of it comes from. Right. Yeah. But yeah, we got, I think it was Cannibal. Is that the one we got a drum track back?
Yes.
That was the one.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then just from there, that was the kind of benchmark for the rest of the album, sort of thing, you know.
And then, which I thought was really nice out of you, for the fans, you did the playthroughs as well on YouTube. That was really interesting. Sounds you actually produced the sound, did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was again a session which we'd set aside. For a number of reasons, apart from anything else, we wanted to do this. We wanted to produce some sort of video enhanced experience of the sound, and I, for one, am not a massive fan of playthroughs which are just playing along to a track or miming in the kind of worst cases where you're just pretending you're playing to it. But I'm not saying I don't know of that many bands off the top of my head who do that, but I have come across that.
Right.
And I felt that it would be more honest to have just the band play through the songs, and you know, it took a few takes to get the right ones for either song, but we really had an opportunity to perform and to have a near ideal recording situation, both in terms of the filming and in terms of the audio aspect, which we could then control and mix down in a way that presented the performance in a better light.
Well, which you certainly did, you know. Yeah, it was really cool, you know, because as you said yourself, sometimes you watch these things and you're going, how much of it is real?
What's going on there?
You know? Yeah. Was that your first time working with Amir Khan?
Yes.
Yeah. How'd that go?
Great. Again, he's a friend of Faust's, our bass player,
right?
And he established the connection. We sent him the files, and he sent us stuff back, and we said, "Can you change these things?" And he did, and it's pretty no nonsense kind of scenario. Oh,
that's cool. You weren't kind of delayed time wise or anything like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Then I just want to talk as well about the artwork for the album. Had you settled on a certain artist, or did you have to give him the music, and you know, had you a few in mind, or how did that come?
That's an interesting question. It was more about finding an artist that could realize the vision that had developed of what the artwork should be. Right. And there was always an idea of some kind of monolithic plinth where a procession of humanity, you know, different eras, you know, the entirety of humanity follows each other towards this representative hand that's falling apart, gigantic hand that's falling apart and losing its grip on this torch, and everything is falling off the cliff edge of this plinth into a tear in space and time, and that's kind of consuming everything around it. And somebody put me in touch with Ingram, and I didn't want to feed him too much in terms of the visuals, because I had a few sketches, but I wanted to try and get him to do it as much as possible himself, and then when it deviated from the vision, I provided feedback, etc.
Okay.
But it was again a long process, again lots of back and forth and iterations, and he was very patient, to his massive credit, and really delivered the goods.
Yes.
I feel.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I suppose the chap who designed our T-shirt artwork, I think that was a long time after the artwork for the album was finished, but that would have been, in my opinion, a worthy cover as well. And that was again quite an involved iterative process with some soul searching and some kind of existential anguish, where he thought he couldn't possibly come up with something that worked, and then he did, and it's brilliant. But again, it was more about fulfilling a vision than specifically an artist. But by the way, I want to name drop Alan O'Neill, the artist who did the T-shirts as well, because he did a fantastic job, and he's very versatile, very talented, and a perfectionist, sort of masochistically so, I think. And if you look at any of his stuff, it's very diverse, very striking, very well put together. The compositions are brilliant, and you've seen some of his
absolutely
unedited sketches, unreleased sketches and finished drawings. Like his comic book art is incredible.
Is he
versatile as well? It's, you know, some guys just have a style.
Yeah.
He's quite. There were a couple of things that Nathanael sent me that I didn't recognise as the same guy at first. Some things you're like, oh, that's the guy who did the T-shirt.
Yeah.
And then there's this other thing, and it's like, well,
it's completely different.
That's not what I thought you would do at all.
Right.
You know, he's really versatile guy.
A lot of these guys make another living as well as tattoo artists as well. You know, I presume he doesn't know. Is it just T-shirts and comics books?
He does art for a number of other bands, including Conan.
Conan, yeah.
But I think he has a fair few things under his belt, but I wouldn't be the best person to
I
speak
suppose
to
you
him.
would have to these days if you're an artist, you know,
Yes.
because you need a few revenue streams coming in, you
Tough
know.
game.
Yeah, and it brings me along nicely to the Rising of the Lights video, which everyone that I've given it to love. Now, I'd imagine there's good stories behind it. What I took from it myself, because I'm a big fan of the French filmmakers Genet and Genet. Did you ever hear of them? City of Lost Children, Delicatessen.
Yes. Okay, yeah.
I thought that was really, really a nice kind of way to film your video and put it out. And I thought, wow, I'm wondering, was there any City of Lost Children vibe to it?
I personally love City of Lost Children. It's you know, when somebody asks you what's your favourite films, I never think of it, but it actually is probably in the top 10 or something. It's visually striking, very quirky, unique. But anyway, in terms of the video itself, that was a project of ridiculous proportions. We worked very closely with Mark, but we had to come up with a lot of the logistics, a lot of the costumes, the props, the locations. We built the set ourselves for the inside. That was filmed in a barn in the coldest days of winter.
It was so cold.
It was so cold, and with
In
the
a barn?
costumes, yes, in a barn. And basically, the farmer said, yes, you can just use it. Give me a couple of bottles of booze, and that'll be fine. And he was very helpful and accommodating. And there was just this load of junk there that he said we could use.
Right.
So we did. And a lot of the stuff that you see on on the set is specifically that.
Where were the outside shots? Where were they located?
Somewhere on Earth in 2020. It was by the Isle of Grain in the Thames estuary.
Okay.
So it's like Essex. It was quite bleak.
Yeah.
And it was surprisingly muddy. You know, when we were actually walking out towards the fort.
It's a great shot.
It was, especially with the masks, you kind of have to hope that you stay on the path because you don't know if you're quite going straight. And there are some places where you can get really, really stuck.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, but it really became just this project that was almost as consuming as the album itself.
And I would say as important as well, you know, because I mean, like for someone that hasn't come across you and then they watch this on YouTube, you're going, wow, I have to check these lads out. You know what I mean? Like the amount of, I know you more or less oversaw the whole thing. Is that part of another thing you'd like to produce or pursue even further down the line, Ed?
On one hand, it has definitely given me a taste for it. On the other hand, it's given me a much deeper insight into all the things that can go wrong and all the things that you have to think about and plan for. Especially, I tried to keep the story fairly simple in a way. You know, there had to be something, there had to be a twist at the end, there had to be something, a point to it in itself, right? It had to be something that could exist as a work independently, right? But in order to do that within a 5 to 7 minute video, it has to be fairly comprehensible. And the idea was simple in a way, but at the same time, in order to execute it effectively, it's quite difficult. And so if we were to make another one of that kind of on that kind of scale, that would be something else that we'd have to rethink properly as well. Yeah, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah, because it seems that it is. I mean, it's on grand scale. Like I mean, and the use of the drones as well actually really worked as well. You know.
That's all Mark. Like he did a very good job on the filming, editing, and
of course you all made cameos, especially you, Flo.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought you're in the running there for an Oscar there, man. But
you genuinely can't imagine. I thought I knew what it was like to be cold, but like it was because it ended up being. It was supposed to take a day of shooting, you know, and just as Nathanael said, you can't fully appreciate just all these little things that happen, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we need to come back tomorrow. And So, and it was literally like it was colder in there, I think, than it was outside, and it was -5 outside, and and I had to sit, and because I don't even remember there's like prosthetics and things like that, so you have to sit absolutely still.
Really?
While they're putting this stuff on.
Oh.
And it's so cold that he couldn't even, the glue that he uses to put onto your face, the mask onto your face, it was so cold that the glue wouldn't set and stuff like that. It's just like this ongoing thing, just constant. You know.
How does that feel actually? Because I mean, I would be fairly claustrophobic. I mean,
no, it's not, because your eyes are clear.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, Faust is really claustrophobic.
Yeah, so
bass player, and he also had to have it done, and he was fine.
The thing with the prosthetics is that the whole mask aspect became an obsession for about at least 6 months, because I had to it couldn't look half-baked. It had to be good.
Yeah,
okay?
Correct.
And I researched the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you all the companies that make these massive silicon pieces, you know, which one's better for what kind of aspect, you know, why we chose those. And then there's the big silicon pieces, there's 2 of them, and then there's the latex foam masks, which are the ones that Flo is talking about. And those aren't that expensive, but and they don't, you know, when you get them, they look kind of cool, but you don't appreciate the transformative power of them. Okay, when they're just in the box or on the table, they're just this inanimate object that's unpainted, and then you apply them to the recipient, and then they come alive, but with the recipient's personality, and that becomes a kind of new entity.
Yeah.
I know it sounds
Yeah,
kind of
cool.
arty farty or like airy fairy, but it's so powerful. And we had some moments between like shots and whatnot where we messed around and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it was just, especially one of them where Flo filmed himself, acting about and sent it to his wife, who
does
was
not like Mark.
who was horrified. Who was
She does not
absolutely
like Mark.
horrified.
It depends on what you were doing, Flo.
Nothing particularly.
No,
just speaking with a
slightly
different voice.
upsettingly, I
And the
think.
thing is,
But-
Flo is a very mild-mannered, accommodating chap. He's really helpful, mindful of others, etc. But as soon as he put that on and that came out, and I was like, that's the guy who blasts behind our kit. That's
cool.
him.
Cool. Respect, and as I said, it's nice to hear you talk that way about the whole process as well, And again, it's another feather to your bow, to get through something as huge as that, and just wish you success with that alone. I mean, it's fantastic. And as I said, I'm a fan of City of Lost Children. That's probably good praise to hear that, So you recently signed then with Apocalyptic Witchcraft.
That's correct.
Yes.
How'd that come about?
Well, I've known Connor since the Candlelight days. So he's still working with Plastic Head, but started this label with this other chap, Tom, and they run it. They do a good job, and effectively, we'd been speaking to them for a while, and we decided that partly because we knew them on a personal level, partly because we knew their work ethic,
Right.
and the people they worked with in terms of PR and so on, and the care that they put, as well as how well they do a job in terms of distribution, it kind of was a no-brainer. Okay, and so far it's been great, and I don't foresee it being anything else.
Is there a vinyl version?
Most definitely. I haven't yet received it myself, but if you have ordered it, it will come. And
there's a black one, a limited edition kind of gold one as well.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's an exclusive there. Yeah, I think there's a delay across Europe in relation to vinyl production.
I don't know.
Yeah.
quite possibly.
Yeah, there is, yeah. A few bands have suffered because of it.
Oh, okay.
And the Bogs are on
Right now.
right now, and they're also on your label,
That's correct.
which is a nice coincidence. You got to see them in the Siege last year.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Was it last year? Wasn't it this
It was
year?
earlier this year, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that long.
Oh yeah,
it
because
was
there's one in
last
October.
I see what you mean. It was
Yeah.
it March? I don't know.
Yeah,
It was Easter.
Easter.
Easter,
Yeah. It was
correct,
Easter
yeah.
weekend,
Spot on,
literally.
yeah. That was my first time seeing him. I don't think it kind of did him justice, the whole setup. So I've seen what can be done down below, and you'll experience it now as well with lighting and sound like that. And I think that's a much better aspect for those that are down watching them now to see him portray. It'll portray him a lot better,
Cool.
What did you think of Siege yourselves? Did you enjoy it?
I thought
Great.
it was brilliant.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
The vibe was great. The bands were great. The attitude of the staff was outstanding.
It's a bit of kind of camaraderie going on. It's
There's
just
a lot.
nice.
There's a lot of mixing as well. There's,
Yeah.
it's really good. And then 4 stages as well. So, it's quite interesting because no band really are the same there. Which is
Yeah,
good.
it's a proper Warren in there.
Yeah.
Left, right, where do you go?
So, are you looking forward to Bloodstock?
Yes.
With bells on.
Yes.
Very good. Kind of, what way are you going to approach it as such? Are you going to just chill out for the day? Have you got you probably have your time, have you?
We're going to be there Saturday and Sunday. We're obviously playing on the Sunday for those who don't yet know and would like to catch us. And I think Saturday is going to be chill out, but also press day. So we're aiming to have get in as many interviews as possible, and you know, all the ancillary festival stuff when lots of people relating to music are in the same space.
Yeah, I've went there 4 years in a row, and I loved it. I came from Hellfest, which got bigger and bigger and got more complicated and complicated. Just was so, I don't really like crowds, but then you're dealing with like 60,000-70,000 people, and you're dealing with queues and everything. So we looked around and we saw Bloodstock, and it's only a short trip across the water. So 4 years we loved it, and a lot of Irish bands actually have got on the bill as well, which was
Zealot
great.
Cult.
Yeah, Zealot Cult
Correct,
playing.
yes, and 10 Ton Slug as well,
Yes.
and there's one or two others. It's just sorry if I can't remember.
It's all right.
But last year was the 4th year in a row, and it just rained constantly for the 3 days that we were over there. And I went, we've had enough, so we're all heading to Brutal Assault this year to check it out.
Yeah, cool.
I've heard a lot of good things about Brutal Assault. In fact, I've only heard good things.
Okay, yeah. So that's where we're heading now. It's actually, we're flying out Wednesday, which is nice. And I believe you were invited to play Bloodstock, which is even nicer again.
Yes. We were lucky enough to have the right people see us, and the team already had us on their radar, so to speak. So it was just a kind of alignment of the planets, and we got invited to play
It's
that
going to be
stage.
so much fun.
I've never been, so it's going to be my first experience of it.
And the fact
you
you're
get to
there,
play there is crazy.
the fact that you're there earlier as well, just soak it up. It's really, really, really well run. That's Simon Hall. Shout out to Simon Hall. And are you playing New Blood stage, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. On the Sunday.
So yeah, what time?
7:30. 7:30.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a nice time to hit it actually. Because people kind of will be kind of just coming out of their
getting over the whole first hangover.
Yes,
and
straight into it.
Second, third hangover, possibly.
So
of the day.
So that's it, lads. I just wish you nothing but success. I think you're on the right path to it anyway. It's great to see you over here, and thanks for coming over.
Nice
We
to be back.
love playing Ireland, and yeah, thank you very much for having us on your show.
Great, and I'm looking forward to catching you later, which is the nice thing about it. Because as I said, sometimes you kind of meet bands that are played afterwards, and which is King's Witch now,
Right?
and they were in a right state.
They were amazing.
They were brilliant.
Yeah, they were amazing. We came in as they were playing, and she just kind of let rip as we came out. Like, what? Yeah, really good. Really good.
So your vocals will be treated kindly tonight as well. So that's it. Over and out. Thanks a million, lads, again.
Thank you.
And catch you later.